How's it going, everyone? I'm Vivi, and yeah, Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time got revealed, and I am super thrilled. This looks absolutely beautiful to look at. And here's a video for you, going over everything we know so far. I tried compiling every piece of information we've gotten so far. Alright, with that said, let's dive straight into it. Crash 4 It's About Time is developed by Toys for Bob, known for working on Spyro Reignited Trilogy. This game is brand new, built from the ground up. According to Paul Yan, Chief Creator Officer and co-studio lead at Toys for Bob, he explained that this game is running on the Unreal Engine, which Spyro Reignited also ran on. As for Insane Trilogy and Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled, both of those games ran on the Alchemy engine. I'm kind of not surprised that Crash 4 It's About Time is also running on the Unreal Engine 4. I assume they just said Unreal Engine, but yeah. Reignited ran on the same engine, so why not Crash 4 as well? This is not a remake, nor a reimagining. It's a brand new game with a brand new code. Work on this game apparently began in mid-2017 after Insane Trilogy was completed. Okay, what does this have to do with the Insane Trilogy again? Well, Toys for Bob did land a hand with Insane Trilogy and Nitro Fueled. Remember, Toys for Bob, although they also developed Reignited Trilogy for Spyro, the studio is a big team, around 180 if I'm correct. That's about 3 years of development. So yeah, they were basically developing two games at the same time, considering the size of their studio. Taylor Kurosaki has also been consulting on Crash 4 apparently. He's an early worker on classic Crash games, back in the day at Naughty Dog. This is a direct, true sequel to Crash 3 Warped. Okay, but what about Wrath of Cortex? Doesn't that count as number 4? Doesn't Japan's box art say number 4 on it? Yes, it does. But I'd like to assume that Toys for Bob wants to continue with their own creative timeline. According to both Lou Stutter, design producer, and Paul Yan at Toys for Bob, they put number 4 in the title in order to emphasize that this indeed is a true sequel to Crash 3 Warped. This was from an interview with IGN's Jonathan Dornbush. A brand new game, a true sequel to Crash 3, the ending actually explained. After 12 years, we get a brand new Crash Bandicoot game, and this is super. I understand why they did this in a way, because look, after the games that came after Wrath of Cortex, fans would usually have trouble deciphering when exactly that game took place, and like I just said, they're finally explaining how Entropy, Cortex, and Uka Uka got out of that planet from the true ending of 3. Toys for Bob also mentioned that later games in the series after the Naughty Dog era, while those games had less of a favorable reception. Stutter also brings up that it's not a true sequel just because it follows the story of 3. Yes, it does explain how these guys got out of there, or how they created a tier in the space-time continuum. It's not only that. The gameplay itself, from the 3 classic games 1, 2, and 3, played a huge factor in the decision-making for this game. Toys for Bob said that in later games, the gameplay kinda stepped away from that classic feel of Crash Bandicoot. Before, everything was much more concentrated, much more dense. And then it transitioned to a more open-world style of game. So Toys for Bob really wanted to stick to that classic aspect. So yeah, gameplay is heavily inspired from the 3 classic games developed by Naughty Dog. Just looking at the gameplay reveal, how the camera shifts, I mean it's traditional. It speaks Crash Bandicoot. Well, classic, in other words. Heck, being chased around and all that. That to me speaks classic Crash Bandicoot. Here's a quote from the IGN interview. It's not just Crash 4 because narratively we're continuing off of where Crash 3 ended, where Uka Uka, Entropy, and Neo Cortex are trapped in time and space, but we're also continuing off the gameplay of the original trilogy. It's actually going back and looking at what worked so well about the original games. It's bringing back that authentic, wholly unique to Crash gameplay, which is the unique perspective shifts of going into camera, being chased by things, running out of camera, switching to side-scrolling. And yeah, just looking at this, yeah, it does scream classic. Also, according to the interview with Canadian Guy Eh and Paul Yan, the game will have linear progression, a linear map design just like Crash Bandicoot 1. Why did they go this route? Well, they said that story would have better focus, and especially challenges. Speaking of the classic games, you can spot a time trial clock right there. If you remember, Crash 1 and 2 for the Insane Trilogy got a time trial challenge implemented. Originally, only Warped had time trials. So this time they're building a game from the ground up with time trial. So it'll feel like the game was made for time trials, if you understand what I mean, having played 1 and 2 with time trials, compared to Warped. Speaking of challenges, there will also be rope swinging timed challenges, according to the same interview. With that said, this game is planned to get launched on October 2nd, 2020 for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. People who've gotten this trailer early, before the actual reveal, it said October 9th, so I take it the date switched to October 2nd, which is the official release date, for those of you confused. Okay, but what about the Nintendo Switch? Maybe I have some good news for you. An Activision representative has stated that they are evaluating additional platforms. The person simply said to stay tuned. Plus, this game is running on the Unreal Engine, which the Nintendo Switch supports. So it's only a matter of time. Well, hopefully. By the way, you can now pre-order Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, on the PS Store and Microsoft. It's priced at $59.99 US. I can already feel the frustration in the air. How come the Insane Trilogy? We're talking about 3 games. The same applies for Reignited. How come those 2 games cost less than $60? If my memory serves right, it was $39.99 US at launch. If I were to guess, at this point Activision is aware that Crash Bandicoot is fully profitable, so they probably thought of bumping up the price. Maybe it has to do because this is a brand new game from the ground up, but honestly, I don't have an answer to that. So as for story and gameplay, yeah, it is themed around space and time. We really are traveling through space, and time, and dimensions, and all that, the multiverse. One level seems to be pirate-inspired, which looks absolutely beautiful. This screenshot right here, I assume a lot of people love it, like it's their favorite. It's my favorite, if you were to ask. Just the lighting, the dense environment and everything, it looks gorgeous. As for this one, Gasmoxia? That looks like an N-oxide species, doesn't it? I mean, who knows if this means we'll get to see alternate versions of our characters. Hold up. Actually, if we go off the description over on the PlayStation Store, new abilities? Check. More playable characters? Yep. Alternate dimensions? Obviously. Redonkulous bosses? For sure. Same awesome sauce? You bet your sweet jorts. Wait, are they actually jorts? Not in this universe. Alternate dimensions, anyone? Parallels? Doubles? Who knows? The interview with Canadian Guy Eh, by the way, you can also find a transcript over on Crashmania if you're ever curious. During that interview, Paul Yan also hinted at possible multiverse type of situation, saying that events after Warped did happen, but may have happened in alternate timelines. Interesting, isn't it? Here's another cool interesting detail. 2 to 4 player offline multiplayer over on the PlayStation Store's description. I'd imagine this is some type of horde mode situation. A new feature in SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated, which I did review recently if you're ever curious. Now what's the story behind it? What is the story of Crash 4? How will Coco and Crash deal with Cortex this time? Well, the game will introduce us to 4 quantum masks. In order to fix the space-time continuum, these 4 masks, which are basically guardians of the time and space continuum, you have to seek them out. You have to rescue them. Paul Yan mentioned that you'll rescue these masks from the clutches of bosses, for example. These masks will be scattered across the universe of the game, which you can find in various levels, at specific locations. 2 of these masks have been given names and their functionality has been revealed. The first mask is Kuponawa, the mask that got teased in its Time to Play trailer. Kuponawa offers the ability to manipulate time, aka slow down time, which also will allow you to get past nitro crates. These masks give us a complete new skin, which is absolutely cool. I like this new addition. And yeah, Coco and Crash are playable. You choose who you want to play as at any point in time in the game. Cortex is also playable for some certain sections. The way the levels are designed, well, they're designed around his moveset. He has a ray gun, which can transform hazards and enemies into platforms, either solid, static, or bouncy. Playing as Cortex means there's two different perspectives in the story. If you see an explosion with Crash, you'll get to experience that explosion playing as Cortex, according to an interview over on Venturebeat. There's also other playable characters confirmed, yet to be revealed. I'd like to assume that Tana will make an appearance. As for the second mask, we have Ika Ika, the gravity type of mask. The name itself is self-explanatory. You play around with gravity, walking upside down, by the looks of this trailer. We have two of these masks on the box art, by the way. Whether or not this piece of art is placeholder, it's yet to be confirmed. Now, wait just a minute. So looking at the box art, it says Xbox One and Xbox Series X. That doesn't mean the game is also getting released on Xbox Series X. Maybe it might, going off what the representative at Activision said. But right now, it simply says, at the bottom of the box, it is also playable on the Xbox Series X. Next, as for this mask, his name is Lani Loli, apparently a friend of Aku's. He makes a cheeky remark, basically a nod to all the games we had after Naughty Dog.
How many times have you beaten this clown anyway?
3.
Really? Only 3? Funny. Seemed like more.
So with the whole alternate dimensions thing, are we to believe that the games after Wrath of Cortex and all happened in alternate dimensions? What do you think of that? This mask, believing that Crash and Coco dealt with Cortex before, is it possible that this mask has seen another Crash and Coco deal with Cortex? Right? Tell me what you think. Another thing, since this is a true sequel to Warped, some might start believing that Wrath of Cortex comes after this one. In other words, Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, is a prequel to Wrath of Cortex. Why? Because Wrath of Cortex never actually explained how these guys escaped that dimension. But still, the Japanese cover art says number 4, if we are to base off our conclusion off of anything. Let's not forget what Paul Yan said, how the other games still happened. So yeah, it's interesting. Next, this game will contain new platforming moves, such as wall running, rope swinging, and rail sliding on top and below. Rail sliding gives me a lot of Ratchet & Clank vibes, especially for this section right here. This reminds me of the recent reveal for Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. Dimensions, rifts, cracking, I mean, it looks very similar, especially this shot of Crash from above. Add some stripes on his ears, it looks like Ratchet in an armor, doesn't it? As for any classic moves, yes, there will still be belly flop, sliding. As for all the moves from Warped, let's say, we still don't know. But the classic typical moves will still be implemented. There will be new challenges in this game, while also respecting source material, aka hidden gems, for example. After people saw the trailer, they probably wondered, are they gonna keep the gems or did they just get rid of it? Well, yes, they are gonna keep it. They didn't specify exactly how they're gonna function in this game, but if we pause it right here, you can notice a colored gem right there. So there's that. Speaking of challenges, here's a quote. It's been this fun balancing act of us taking what we love about those original games and the feeling of those linear pathways, but then at the same time layering in new challenging tasks for the player, new ways of finding all the boxes, crates, finding hidden gems, there it is, finding all this different content throughout the level, Stutter explained, noting the new levels and challenges have been built with a focus on elevating the replayability of the game. Now with this visual art style, Toys for Bob got the chance to open up the worlds from a visual standpoint. Larger vistas, huge places, I mean, speaking of visuals, yep, Toys for Bob really did put Spyro's aesthetic in this game. It's Spyro's art style throughout. It looks cute, it looks charming, it looks colorful. I'm not surprised that these characters got a redesign again. Nicholas Cole, by the way, an artist who did work on the Spyro Reignited trilogy, confirmed to have been working on character designs for this game. It's a trend now. I understand it might have put you off a bit, you know, you being tired of redesigns all the time, but I'm not gonna start hating the game. Like I said, it looks so pretty. I am willing to give Toys for Bob a chance at handling this. Spyro Reignited was well handled by these guys. Yes, Sanzaro did land a hand with Spyro 3, but from a visual standpoint and all that, Reignited was gorgeous. Toys for Bob also explains that Crash 4 will be able to fully expand the worlds visually, something the originals couldn't handle. Yes, we did get the Insane trilogy, but that was basically a one-to-one remake. They stuck with the narrow corridors of the original. But since this is a brand new game from the ground up, Toys for Bob really has the chance to show off what a classic Crash Bandicoot game can look like this day and age. As for difficulty, it's going to be better balanced. They want the game to have a smoother ramp up in difficulty. No spikes, aka no road to nowhere situation, like the first game. The originals, well, at least for the first game, Road to Nowhere was a huge spike, wasn't it? Toys for Bob wants to make Crash 4, It's About Time, progressively harder, in order not to overwhelm the player, while also trying to make the game harder as you go. By saying, they would try and focus on new sorts of challenges. By the way, the game will have two playable modes, Retro and Modern. How clever. Mix in a new mode called Modern and Retro for nostalgia's sake. I see. This is actually a split they had in the studio according to Paul Yan. According to the interview with IGN, Retro mode will follow the traditional game over system, meaning you still collect 100 Wumpa to obtain a 1-up. As for Modern mode, you simply die and respawn at a checkpoint. You have unlimited lives basically. Another thing he said regarding Modern, it will have more checkpoints for hazardous areas. Areas which will be very, very difficult, they're gonna implement more checkpoints. I guess this is their way to cater to newcomers. Now, what these two modes have in common is the new tally system. You trying to find all Wumpas in a level. Now, we don't see the HUD in this gameplay, but Crash on Instagram a couple of days ago did share a snippet with rapper Quavo. It's blurry, but you can notice a tally system definitely. This tally system, they call it a collection currency of collectibles. This total number of Wumpa found will most likely be displayed when you complete a level, and the Wumpas you collect will apparently count as another currency for both these modes. This is according to the IGN interview. As for which mode will be naturally more difficult, well, I'd like to pretend that Retro mode will be tougher, but I could be wrong. At least from a quick glance, you'd say, yeah, Retro has to do with the game over system, yeah, it's gonna be harder, naturally. As for Modern, although you have unlimited lives, it will record the number of deaths. If too many, you won't be awarded with the clear gem, so it appears the clear gem functionality in this game has been switched. Originally, clear gems were obtained after collecting all crates, or secret areas after Crash 2 and onward. So in order to cater to a wider audience, they made obtaining the clear gem easier, I guess. In terms of frame rate, the trailer and gameplay are running at 60 FPS. That is all we know for now. It doesn't mean the game will run at 60. Also, as for pre-order bonuses, if you pre-order the game digitally, you receive 2 skins, one for Coco and one for Crash at launch. So not only do the masks give you skins temporarily, which looks super cool, but the game will probably have skins you can unlock. Maybe it has something to do with the Wumpa currency? Buying skins and all that? That looked cool. By the way, just looking at Coco here, she reminds me of Elora. If Nicholas Cole is involved, I take it he drew Coco. Look at the resemblance, and tell me I'm not crazy. Another thing, the art of Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, got listed on Amazon, we don't have any other detail on that. Spyro Reignited's art book is yet to have its own release, which is planned for late July. As for other things, I found this image floating around. If you pre-order this game from GameStop or EB Games, depending on if you live in the US or Canada, you get a minute glass timer. How cool is that? As for the last couple of things, well, Josh Mansell, the original composer for the classic games, is no longer involved, according to this tweet. Many people are asking me if I'm involved with Crash Bandicoot 4. The answer is unfortunately no. I was not asked to contribute, collaborate. I hope the game lives up to and exceeds expectations. I personally can't wait to find out who will be composing for this game. So Vivi, since Toys for Bob is developing this game, how about a Spyro Easter egg? Canadian Guy A did ask this question to Paul Yan. He basically said, yeah, it's possible. I'll put the exact quote on screen. I wouldn't be surprised if Spyro appears out of nowhere because, you know, alternate dimensions and stuff. So yeah, with that said, guys, this is it for everything we know so far on Crash 4. If I did miss any detail in particular, please say so in the comments section below. And as always, I've been Vivi, and thank you for always tuning in. I'll see you guys next time.